Gavin Armstrong, it's great to have you on the Social Impact podcast. Thanks so much for taking part. I would like to start this episode by making the distinction between hunger and hidden hunger. So obviously, hunger is when people simply don't have enough food, don't have enough calories, and they are chronically feeling hungry all the time. There are still 800 million people suffering from hunger around the world. And then there is hidden hunger. It's when people do have enough food, they don't feel hungry, but the quality of the food is just not high enough, not nutritious enough. It's malnutrition, basically. There are 2 billion people suffering from hidden hunger. That's 30% of the world's population. And that's the type of hunger you've been addressing for the last 8 years through your product, the Lucky Iron Fish, a simple, easy to use cooking tool made of iron, shaped like a fish that you have to boil in water. That is a cost-efficient way to increase iron levels in any type of alimentation. And it's a great example of a quite simple solution to a complex global health problem. You know, it might not be high-tech, but it certainly works. It's easy to use. It's convenient. Before we talk about your journey as an entrepreneur and the origins of the Lucky Iron Fish, I would love for the audience and for myself to get a better understanding of what iron deficiency is, what anemia is, what are the facts we should know.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me on. And it's great to be able to talk about my passion, which is the Lucky Iron Fish. Iron deficiency, quite simply, is when your body does not have enough iron. Iron is the most essential nutrient that you need. It creates hemoglobin in red blood cells, which carry oxygen around your body. So without iron, your body can actually suffocate. And anemia is just chronic iron deficiency. Iron deficiency can cause symptoms that range between headaches, dizziness, fatigue. You can faint, limited cognitive development in children, but it can make you more susceptible to other diseases. And in some cases, it can actually lead to death. And so it's quite a serious problem.
Okay, got it. Well, thank you for this intro on what it is. It's my understanding that pregnant women and children are more keen to suffer from the effects of anemia?
So women and children do have a higher need for iron. Women during childbearing age, and when they're pregnant, they need iron for two, basically.
Yeah.
Children as they're growing. Iron is critical for in growth in your body, but especially in cognitive development. And so as a child's brain is growing, it's really critical that they have enough iron to help foster a healthy brain growth.
Got it. And are there some places in the world, some countries, some communities that are more subject to anemia than others because of their type of alimentation, for instance?
So 2 billion people suffer from iron deficiency, so 1/3 of the world's population. It is seen in basically every country around the world. Countries like in Europe and North America are deemed to have low levels of iron deficiency, but that rate is still upwards of 20%. And so it still is quite high in those countries. In developing countries and emerging economies, iron deficiency can be much higher. Iron deficiency and malnutrition do have a direct link with poverty. In some countries, like in India, iron deficiency can be higher than 60% of the population. Wow. So over the majority of the people suffering from it.
Okay. I believe it was a travel experience that was at the origin of your story with the Lucky Iron Fish. You were still in college when you started. Can you tell us what inspired you to start this?
So during my later years in university, I was trying to find my footing, trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I was really passionate about solving hunger issues. And I'd organized some conferences, and I had created some networks of students to try and find solutions to solve global hunger. And that actually took me to Africa, and I had spent some time in Mauritania and in Kenya. And I was focusing on food delivery and fundraising for food. And though it's very important to have food, as you said at the beginning, 800 million people go to bed hungry every day, but hidden hunger is in the billions of people. And when I became aware of this concept of hidden hunger and that it wasn't really getting in the spotlight as much as hunger, I decided that that should be an area to focus on. And then in digging into it, I found that iron deficiency was the largest form of hidden hunger, and that work was being done in Cambodia on fortifying meals with iron to be a solution. So I met with some researchers at my university, decided to do my PhD on this concept, working with another student named Christopher Charles, and taking his original work, was able to develop the concept we have today, which is the lucky iron fish.
Quite interesting. I don't have a PhD. I didn't go to college, but I can imagine going after a PhD is like having a full-time job, right? In terms of efforts. So it's quite well played, you know, what you did, combining the two projects. So you used your PhD in order to start your research and to start your journey as an entrepreneur. And, you know, at the end of the day, you have your PhD, and I believe you were also well advanced on your project, which was a quite clever move.
Yeah, I did an interesting approach where I commercialized at the same time as doing the research, because I wanted a part of my thesis to be on creating a sustainable business and social business. So it was sort of like having two jobs at the same time, but they were intertwined. So it was hard, but great.
And regarding the early journey, what were the early struggles, or, you know, the process of creating a product from scratch? I believe a lot of testing was involved. How much and how did you raise money to do all the testing and to create the first batch of the product?
Well, so the first problem that was encountered, that Chris encountered, was that an iron disc was added to the liquid to try and fortify the meal. And though it was scientifically effective, women said it looked like a piece of garbage that we found on the side of the road. No one wanted to cook with it. So after some research, it was discovered that a symbol of a fish is a symbol of luck in Cambodian culture. So by shaping that disc like a fish, women suddenly wanted to cook with it because they thought it would make them healthier. And that's why I can show you, this is the product we have today. So this is now what it looks like.
Awesome, that's the fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so for the original clinical work, I mean, I took a very traditional approach. I think I raised money through grant funding, research funding through my university. I was really pleased. I was able to raise over $500,000 from Grand Challenges Canada, which is an organization that funds research into health initiatives, and that supported the original clinical work. The challenge from that, though, was because I had done the work and then commercialized it, the international community said, you know, there's some promise in these results, but you're biased. You did the work yourself, and now you're trying to commercialize it. So I raised more money, and this time through with Grand Challenges, but also the Gates Foundation with Saving Lives on Earth. Raised more money that was done for additional clinical trials that we had independent institutions carry out. So it was to eliminate that bias.
Got it. And once you had the product, how did you launch it? Was it an instant hit in the communities you were working? So at that time you were working in Cambodia, right?
Yeah. So when I started selling the product, I can say it was a big failure, actually. I had thought that this product would only be used in the Cambodian market. And I had developed a sales strategy that was sort of a traveling roadshow, and it would go from community to community and door to door. And we had a sales team that would educate families on iron deficiency and why they needed this product. But there was a lot of there wasn't a lot of trust in those communities about these people coming in and talking about health. The concept of adding an iron fish to your pot was still relatively new, and so there was a lot of resistance. And so no one was buying the product. I mean, it was just for months we were trying and nothing was working. But at the same time, I would go to conferences and talk about the lucky iron fish and the data from it. And I'd often have people come up to me and say, I love this. Can I buy one? I have iron deficiency. So that's when I shifted the business model and sold them online around the world, direct to consumers. And if you bought one for yourself, we would take proceeds and use that to donate units for free to families in need around the world, sort of like a buy one, give one concept. And that's where it really took off. And that's where we've built the fundamentals of the company that we have today.
Got it. So that's your social impact strategy. Basically, you have an impact fund that is financed by the portion of your sales. So how does the impact fund works?
Yes, the impact fund is the main way that we have a social impact of the business. And the impact fund has evolved over time. When I first started, it was just giving out units for free. But then we started listening and talking to our partners, and they were saying that they need some help with distribution. Sometimes that can be costly, or diagnostic equipment, being able to identify iron deficiency and monitor it, or even just providing basic education or research. And so the impact fund that we have today actually provides resources for all of those things. We donate free units still, but we also provide some equipment, some money for training, and we have research initiatives that are funded from it as well. Lucky Iron Fish is a B Corp, or a registered benefit corporation, and so we have a commitment to have an impact in everything that we do as a business. So obviously the fund is really critical, but we're committed to making the fish in an environmentally friendly way. Our packaging is made from sustainable materials. Our hiring practices, our transparency, we're really committed to being a full-fledged impact business.
Got it. And talking about production, you are producing the iron fish in Cambodia, right?
They're currently made in India, actually.
India,
With
okay.
It's a foundry that makes electrolytic iron, which is a type of iron used in fortification. And we made sure that foundry follows all of our environmental and safety requirements.
Got it. So do you reach out to nonprofits to distribute the iron fish, or do they come to you? Was it a challenge for you folks to build partnerships within the NGO sectors when you started out?
Both happen. We do active outreach to organizations, whether they're NGOs or private sector companies that have a health component in their CSR. But we also have a lot of organizations come to us. Some organizations that are quite surprising. We didn't realize they had a focus on health. And that's been a great way for us to expand our reach around the world.
Got it. We mentioned a few times India. And I noticed by scrolling through the Lucky Iron Fish Instagram feed the other day that you were focusing quite a lot of attention to India. So you mentioned 60% of the population has anemia. Is that the #1 country in terms of those high percentages?
Well, I think I wouldn't necessarily say it's #1, but it's definitely up there. But a couple of reasons of why we're focusing on India. I mean, it's a massive population with a massive need, over 1 billion people, of which over half have iron deficiency. But also the government of India has been very forward thinking about trying to solve this problem. They've created a campaign that's Anemia Free India, and they've actually indicated that not one solution will solve this problem. It needs to be multiple innovations working together. And that's the approach that we take at Lucky Iron Fish. We don't think that we're the one single thing that's going to end iron deficiency around the world. We think we can play a really critical part in being a part of that solution. So with the government willingness and with the problem being so large, we felt that it was an area we should focus.
Got it. And I believe you have a specific product for the Indian market that is not the fish. Yeah,
so the Lucky Iron Fish has now been sold in over 80 countries, and only one country didn't like the fish shape, and that was India. With a very vegetarian population, women were hesitant to use even a fake fish. And so we did some research, and we developed the Lucky Iron Leaf. It's the exact same thing, but it looks like a leaf.
Got it. Does the leaf has any signification in India, or just organic symbol?
Yeah, the leaf shape that it's modeled after is the tulsi leaf, which is a leaf that has health properties and is known in a lot of folklore throughout the country. And it also is important for us because the surface area is still similar enough to the fish that it will release a consistent amount of iron per use. We call it the iron leaf globally, but in India, it's actually called the Shakti leaf, and Shakti means power. And so it's the lucky power leaf, essentially.
Got it. I wonder what you were doing for iron, the iron leaf, the iron fish. Could you do it for other nutrients? Is the product itself replicable to other deficiencies? Can we imagine one day having the lucky zinc fish, for example?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something we're looking into right now. Now that the Lucky Iron Fish has a pretty strong presence globally, I've got a great team that are dedicated to advancing that cause. So I would like to go back to some of the research roots and look at different innovations. And as we start to live in a post-COVID world, one of the things we're hearing from our partners is continuously going to health clinics to pick up supplements or other solutions is not really ideal. And there's a lot of stigma now around traveling to health centers. And so if we can have solutions that are left in the home that can be reused for multiple years, it prevents that constant contact. And so we're looking at what other nutritional deficiencies can we solve with products that are going to be kept in the home for multiple uses.
Got it. It's been 8 years now that you launched the Lucky Iron Fish. Are you able to share some insights about some of your sales, the country that buy the most of your products?
Well, our e-commerce sales remain the strongest channel that we have, and that's people in North America and Europe or in Australia are the majority of people purchasing. I think that awareness for iron deficiency is growing, and that people are looking for natural alternatives to try and solve that problem for themselves. I do think that the impact fund component is something that comes into the decision-making process when someone buys it. People like that when they buy a product for themselves, someone else is going to be able to use it because they both are suffering from the same condition. We are focusing on growing the NGO and government sales, and that is going well. And we're hoping to see our growth take off with that channel.
Okay, iron pills, have been around for quite some time. Can you tell us how your solution is quite disruptive if you compare the pills and your solution?
Yeah, and iron supplements, they do work, and that's why they're the main go-to solution for iron deficiency. And there definitely is a place for them in the plethora of options available. But when we look at the Lucky Iron Fish, because it's reusable for 5 years, over time it's actually a fraction of the cost of other interventions, because one family can use it every day for 5 years. It also doesn't change the taste, color, or smell of the food it's cooked in, and there are no negative side effects reported when using it. And so in our clinical trials, we have seen a compliance rate upwards of 90% of the iron fish, which has been higher than other solutions which we've compared it to. But again, our approach as a company is that we believe we should be a part of the solution, not the only solution. And so I do believe we can work alongside other interventions like iron supplements for certain circumstances.
Yeah. Well, Gavin, thanks so much for your time, for sharing those insights on such a big, one of the biggest global health challenge. And I feel like there are not a lot of people talking about it. I honestly didn't know much about iron deficiency last week before I hear your story and I start doing some research for this interview. What else are you working on in 2020? What are your goals for the next 5 years?
So it's our goal by the end of 2020 to help improve the lives of 1 million people. And we're close to that number, but we still have a bit of work to do. So I'll be focused on the rest of the year with our team to help achieve that. And in the next few years, I do think that this Lucky Iron Fish or the Lucky Shakti Leaf can play a part in government programs and strategies to alleviate iron deficiency. And so I hope that we get make some success and inroads with governments to offer this product.
Got it. That's the big next step for you folks to have more social impact. Got it. Gavin, luckyironfish.com. I believe it's the right place to find your products. It's available in 88 countries. Anyone can purchase a Lucky Iron Fish or leaf to boost their iron levels and to support what you're doing with the non-profit side of the business. Thank you so much for your time. And that's it. Do you have a final word to conclude the episode?
Well, I hope you do check out the website, luckyironfish.com, because you can help us put a fish in every pot.
Awesome.